Good morning and welcome to the Propeller Club of Northern California. I'm Stas Margaronis, and our guest today is Steve Schult. He is the Vice President for Global Supply Chain at Blue Diamond Growers, and he is going to be discussing some of the logistics issues that he's been involved with, getting his almond exports to market. But first, I would like to introduce our participants, and then we will go ahead and introduce our speaker, and we will have questions and answers afterwards. You should know that our next speaker is going to be Mike Jacob with PMSA. He will be speaking to us on Tuesday, September 6th. And the subject will be our terminal and the A's ballpark plans. And also, Mike will be discussing the lawsuits and the status of the lawsuits that have been filed. So that is Tuesday, the 6th of September. And without further ado, I will introduce my close comrade in arms, Todd Crawshaw. Todd, good morning.
Good morning. Todd Crawshaw with Crawshaw Design. We provide integrated brand marketing for print and web and premier web hosting and IT support.
Okay, very good. I see Captain Ann McIntyre there. Captain, good morning.
Hi, good morning. I'm Ann McIntyre with the San Francisco Bar Pilots, and I'll pass it to my colleague, John.
Very good. Now, I see somebody with a call sign called Capo. Yeah, I assume that's not somebody related to Don Corleone. Is that you, Captain John?
No, I'm right here, John Carlier.
Okay.
San Francisco Bar Pilots.
I think that's Corey.
Oh, Corey. Okay, introduce yourself, Corey.
Yes, hi. Are you okay? You guys able to hear me now?
We are, Capo.
All right. Hi, I'm Corey Apollo. Yes, I work in ops, a bulk manager. I actually work though right now. I work out of St. Louis, Missouri area.
Okay.
And I've been with Storm Geo now for 11 years.
Okay. Very good. Okay. And you've seen too many Don Corleone movies, it looks like.
No.
Okay. Bad joke is far, I've taken that far enough. I see Mr. Scott Taylor. Good morning, Mr. Taylor.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
Scott, would you like to tell everybody who you are, even though you're a man who needs no introduction?
Oh gosh, the price goes up. Good morning, everybody. My name is Scott Taylor. I'm CEO and chairman of the board of DSC Logistics based in Oakland and also the PNW, and soon in 2 other ports around the country.
And we won't say where they are yet.
Not yet.
Laura?
Very good. Thank you. Susan Sullivan, good morning. Susan, are you there? Okay. I see somebody with a Clampitan. Who is that?
Oh, that's me. It's Chuck Leviton. That's where the C. Leviton Clabadan might come from. But I'm the new manager of trade development and marketing for the Port of San Francisco.
Oh, very good. Well, and Chuck, welcome aboard. We're really glad to see you. You and I should chat a little bit offline afterwards. I would very much like to introduce you to the board at a later time, and very, very welcome. And thank you for your good efforts at the Port of San Francisco.
Okay, thank you. Let's do that.
Okay. I see Daniel Serrato. Daniel, good morning.
Morning, Stas. My name is Daniel Serrato. I'm a business developer for PCC Logistics, located here in the Port of Oakland, but we have a presence in the Long Beach ports and Seattle ports.
Thank you very much, Daniel. Mr. Darren Shems. Darren, good morning.
Good morning. So I have been with Storm Geo for, we're going to be coming up on 13 years soon. And I'm a route analyst and also the internal audit leader for the company.
Very good. And you are a big supporter of the Propeller Club of Northern California, and several of your colleagues, including somebody who identifies themselves as Capo, is along with you. So we're very glad to have you. Incidentally, Captain Taylor Lamb has told me that he is available to do a cybersecurity presentation on Tuesday, October 25th. And Darren, if you and I maybe should chat a little bit about that, see if you'd like to have any input on that. They're going to do a major presentation, bring in some people from Washington, and Captain Lamb, who most of you know is sector commander for San Francisco, will be hosting that. So Darren, you could maybe send me an email so you and I can chat offline. I'd appreciate that.
Absolutely. Will do.
Okay, thank you. Emily Parker. Emily, good morning. Emily, are you there?
Yes, hello, good morning. I'm also with Darren.
Okay.
I've been a route analyst with StormGeo for a bit over 6 years now.
Okay, very good. And
yeah,
thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Evie Wong, good morning, ma'am.
Hi, Stas. Hi, everyone. Evie Huang. I'm a customs broker with Alba Wilsup, current president of the Northern California Customs Brokers Forwarders Association. And glad to be here. And let's hear about what's happening with this speed train or something that's called the Almond Express. Okay, thanks for having this subject, Stas.
Thank you very much, Evie. Appreciate this very much. So I just saw Hijo Ramsey. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. This is Hijo Ramsey. I'm with the Port of Long Beach. Just wanted to hear what Steve had to say about all the cargo that he's going to be bringing from Northern California down to our gateway.
All righty. I've heard that. Ron Brown, you're there somewhere. Actually, I'll introduce Ron Brown next.
We share cargo with Ron. We're good friends.
All right. Okay, let's hear if he agrees. Ron Brown.
Well, good morning, everyone. I guess I'll put my picture on. I did shave this morning, so I didn't want to scare anyone. Well, happy to be here, interested in the subject, as you would imagine. And I do have a little bit of a joke for Hijo. You know, the old story about marriage. They say love is grand, divorce is 100 grand. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I think that's very wise. Very wise. Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown. Susan Ransom. Good morning, Susan.
Good morning, everybody. Susan Ransom, SSA Terminal Client Relations Manager. I'm excited to hear about the Almond train, and hopefully I can give some feedback on that as well, but also a board member of the Propeller Club, which I always enjoy. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Susan. Appreciate it. And I see Susan Sullivan, you've reappeared.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you. Sue Sullivan. I work with the Pesha Group. I'm the manager for their oversized cargo division and a member of the Propeller Club board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Susan. I see Jessica Alvarenga here. Jessica?
Good morning. This is Jessica Alvarenga. I'm Manager of Government Affairs with the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association and also board member of the Propeller Club Southern California.
So Jessica, interesting news yesterday that the rail dwell time went up to 16 days down south. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is the highest we have seen since we began tracking that data.
Well, you do an excellent work, Jessica, and we very much appreciate you keeping us in touch on these issues. And unfortunately, sometimes the news is not good news, but it's news that we do need to be aware of. And thank you for your good work.
Thank you.
Susan Coffey, good morning, Sue.
Good morning, everybody. Sue Coffey, Director of Commercial Operations for Pacific Terminal Services. So in Oakland, that would be Howard Terminal. But we do have yards up in Seattle, Tacoma, LA, and Long Beach, working with the ports.
Very good. Thank you very much. Christine Zortman, Executive Director, Port of Redwood City. Christine, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me.
Okay, you're a woman who needs no introduction. So how are things going down there?
Things are going well. Our cargo numbers continue to remain strong, and we've also we're able to weather the pandemic very well, in particular with some more outdoor activities. And so our spring concert series went very well, and so well that we've launched a fall concert series now, free to the community every Saturday. And so we're happy.
Very good. Thank you very much, Christine.
Sure.
I see Robert Wilkins. Robert, good morning. I think
he's on mute.
Robert, can you unmute yourself? Looks like he's frozen there, Todd. Robert, if you come back, yell at me so we can introduce you. Peter Olney. Peter, good morning.
Morning, Stas. Thanks as always for organizing these very informative forums. Peter Olney, retired organizing director of the International Longshore and Warehouse Union.
Very good. Peter, it's good to see you. Robert, you're unmuted. Robert, can you hear me? All right. So I think Mike McGillicuddy.
Hello. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike McGillicuddy. I actually work at Storm Geo as well with Darren, Capo, and Emily, just in a different department. This is the first time joining one of these meetings, so happy to be here.
Michael, thank you very much for being with us. Richard Waycott. Richard?
Yes, good morning, President and CEO of the Almond Board of California and a colleague of Steve's. Yeah, we've been living, breathing logistics for the last 18 months or so, and just hope these efforts and similar ones like them will help us get to a much better supply-demand capability here over the next few months. Thank you.
Richard, thank you very much. I see somebody who is just identified as 004. Do they want to introduce themselves? Okay, well.
He spoke before.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yes.
All right, good. Okay. Todd, have we introduced everybody?
Hard to keep track of everyone. I'm not sure. I think so. Whoever hasn't speak up.
Anybody, have I not introduced anybody? If not, please hold forth and let us know. Anybody going? Susan Duran. Susan.
Susan Duran from Flexivan, Director of Operations for the Oakland Bay area and the PNW for. Thank you.
Susan, very welcome. Good to see you.
Good morning. I'm Patrick Forster with the Port of San Francisco. I'm a colleague of Charles Leviton. I'm happy to be here.
Patrick, what do you do at the port?
I am a wharfinger.
Okay, very good. Patrick, welcome as well. We're glad to see our friends over at the Port of San Francisco joining us today.
Thank you.
Okay, I will now, if I have, let me just make sure if I have missed anybody, would you please alert me?
Robert Wilkins is coming in again.
Okay, if Robert comes in, why don't you let him in and then we can.
Yeah, I did. Let's see, is he showing up?
Robert, are you there?
I am back.
Ah, there you are. Like Douglas MacArthur, you have returned.
I have returned, yes.
Robert, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Robert Wilkins. I'm the director of the International Maritime Center. We're headquartered in the port of Oakland, and we provide moral and spiritual support and personal services and advocacy for seafarers and their families. Thank you for having me today.
And Robert was introduced to us by Niels Allen, the former president of the International Propeller Club. Robert, the work of the Seafarers Church is very important to us. Your mission is very important to us. The welfare of our mariners is very important to us. And I'm very pleased to see that you are here and amongst your flock. And we would very much like to have you working with us. And we should schedule a time for me to come and visit with you. Are you out at 7?
Yes.
Okay.
7th, berth 40, right next to Ben Nutter Terminal.
Okay, very good. Okay, let's be in touch with each other. I will come out and visit with you, and thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. Okay, so our guest today is Steve Schult, Vice President, Global Supply Chain with Blue Diamond Growers. I heard Steve speak at the AgTC conference back in June. He had a very interesting presentation about about what we are now calling the Almond Express. I interviewed him for the American Journal of Transportation in July. And we obviously are, oh, excuse me, my assistant, Kevin Policarpo. Kevin, I forgot to introduce you. Do you want to say hello real quickly?
Hello, everyone.
Kevin is my researcher, does a lot of research for work on AJOT and some of the other blogs. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks, boss.
Okay. So we are having some challenges at the Port of Oakland, and we need to resolve those. We are all aware that we've lost some sailings, and we need to find a way to get us back into the game. None of us has a crystal ball here. We all need to be working together to try and solve what a common problem is. But I thought that hearing from Steve would stimulate some discussion and some thought. I know that Steve has been visiting with Brian and Danny at the Port of Oakland. They are working very closely with him to try and find ways to get Blue Diamond and the almond growers across the street. So without further ado, Steve, welcome, and you have the floor.
Stas, thank you. I will pull up my presentation and we'll get into it. But first, I'd like to thank the Propeller Club and the distinguished panel here today who've assembled to listen to this interesting topic and what we see as a new way of working and providing resiliency to food supply chain. So if you could give me just a nod that everything is up and running, everyone can see. Okay, great.
Yep.
I'll click through the screen. So I'll ground us in 3 key principles, and that at Blue Diamond we have a saying that the best is yet to come, and we believe that because we are 112 years old and we're consistently looking forward, and we'll bring these themes throughout the deck. We know how to get almonds from our growers, farms, and families worldwide better than anyone. We've been doing it longer than most. And so it's with those 2 key principles that we set our frame of reference and through our values as working as partners that we set on our 3rd mission, and that is to continue to grow in the right direction and accelerate our focus on sustainability by continuing to give back. And we're doing that through what we see as democratizing process and opening up volume that create new ways that reduce carbon and bring benefit to all and different communities throughout the United States. And we definitely see that as a key pillar of agriculture as a whole. I won't drain the entire slide, but since 1910, we've been delivering, and so it speaks to that 112-year legacy of being able to look backwards and look forwards with our carriers. In 1915, we adopted the logo. I'd say in 1911, in between there, the Port of Oakland came into the business around, and not squeezed in there. Is in 1937 we were shipping almonds to our troops overseas for the greatest generation. And so then we introduced some flavors, and then in 1980 we officially became Blue Diamond Growers, and the Almond Alliance was born, and the broader almond community came together. And so, of course, we've been leading with marketing that has helped kind of provide the growth of almonds as we continue to innovate with food. But who we are as a cooperative is essentially a 3,000 member owned company. And so by its nature, cooperatives came together to bring its critical mass, to bring scale, to ensure that fair trade and markets were open. And so that has been the core pillar and legacy of Blue Diamond. And in doing so, we feel like we democratize our process and share with others. And while Blue Diamond is one of the 100 handlers within California that's represented here today by Richard and the Almond Alliance, as members of that community, we are it's significant in scale relative to size, and then in terms of our quality. This is important because as we grew brands globally, and almonds grow globally. And not only do we have American brands represented globally, but we have almonds represented in these markets. And as we grow, consumption grows. And if you look at the crop of California that Stas had alluded to earlier in terms of size, from 2003 to now, where we expect to take almonds in terms of pounds, that's in the billions. We had a 3 billion pound crop. We had a 2.8 billion pound crop, and we continue to elevate and escalate. And that's in spite of continuing conditions that we see. Consumption is scaling. And so as we market and continue to drive that halo, we see the benefit to the industry, and we feel that democratizing the processes only creates better benefit for all almonds. And we're doing so with partnership with the Almond Alliance. And 70% of those almonds are exported, contributing to GDP. And so that's an important fact that we like to hone in on, is American brand exports, because it's not just almond, it's agriculture, it's cattle, it's ranchers, it's dairy, it's everyone, grain. We're all in the same boat and feeling the same pinch. Oh, went too fast. So our network, why is it so important? Why did it fall apart? We're in Sacramento. We have 3 factories that are kind of in the valley. We have a powerhouse. We move approximately 1.5 billion pounds around in that market. 70% of it goes out through Oakland. So when the routing guide fell apart, you can imagine how a $500 million supply system had to react to move product around. And so we had very little time to wait for solutions, and we had to react, because the one thing that all farmers and all growers and all ranchers, and particularly almonds in California, face is the next crop is coming. And if we don't get it out, we're gonna face over. So what we saw was the world fall apart. And I won't drain this because I think there was an earlier presentation I saw that was fantastic, explaining how the world fell apart, and was very methodical, and essentially kind of made us feel good that we were seeing the same things as we put this slide together a year ago. And we just been changing the boxes from a war to ships stuck in canal to other things, now food prices. What we've learned as we've gone across this spectrum is that although at first we were thinking most of the carriers ran for profit, some lost trade. OOCL is a good example where Paul Devine clearly walked us through how he lost paper, and they had to redirect ships. Where those clear and transparent ways of working were obvious, those are the partners that are running to us with solutions. And so by presenting solutions on both sides, we've been able to balance that. But ultimately what we've seen is over to the right, Oakland has been deprioritized as an agricultural port with little market availability. We have rail congestion inland, labor shortages that we all face that are continuing to pressure us, and U.S. truck capacity continues to dwindle and be constrained, even though pricing is correcting. Ultimately, longer term, as we like to think about it, we'll see continued constraints there. And so agriculture was deprioritized as the world is now facing this crisis. And we see this as an opportunity or a risk factor that we can no longer allow to happen. And so we called it the Freight Tsunami as the volume came over from the COVID and hit the ports and overwhelmed the systems. But what's always the worst part of the tsunami it's the wave. If you make it through the wave, it's the recovery. And so as we look at the infrastructure recovery that's happening now with the bullwhip effect that's happening with inventory and all of the other things that have gone along with this with other items. Now we knew that we were stuck. And in doing so, we focused our objectives to reach out, to grow our solutions. And we had to reach out by anchoring on our contracts that are that old. So our partners that we'll show later. We partnered with CDFA and GoBiz. We've partnered with them to keep them informed, ask for solutions, inform them of what our strategies are to ensure that they're aligned. And now we're starting to put task force together that are going to really drive some changes, we hope. We were at the time we're facing a 1.3 million or 1.4 billion pound backlog, which the industry has managed to clear, but through sheer will and persistence of the Almond Alliance pushing together with Aubrey Betancourt and bringing folks together. So what we have seen is us form a new ways of working and bringing folks together to truly understand crops. And we're piloting and scaling these new capabilities in our supply chain. So as I mentioned earlier, we're working through our global supply. We've invested on our side of it. We've started up ports and at cost disadvantages to us, but we know that they ultimately needed to be set up for the almond industry. And we've done so in order to create pilot and scale. We've worked with the Almond Alliance to push those through both at the federal and state level. And we are actively engaged with the secretary and the undersecretary, who we have regular weekly follow-up calls. And most recently, Trey Bradley, our new Deputy Director of Sustainability and Freight Supply Chain Development, clearly called out that there's $1.2 billion worth of investment in the California GoBiz Fund that they're willing to execute to continue to invest in ports. And so I think that this is all coming at the time that we need to start to look at how do we work and funnel those dollars. So we look forward to working with providing our insight as an exporter in the process. As we looked at how we scaled this out, we looked at all of the leaders. Union Pacific was first to us. And that's who we have a relationship going back since 19-something and 30, if I could find a contract. We worked with CMA CGM, who is reloading our dairy out of, who's working with dairy farmers and with us now out of Oakland to reload containers. We work with Hapag-Lloyd. They're not on the West Coast, but they have new innovative ways. We've talked about OOCL, their commitment, and then Maersk, we set up emergency cross docks to ensure that we can get our products out when needed. The one thing that's lost, as you know, that is that when we need to move stuff, it's typically to a food resource. Like almonds needed to go to Poland to go feed what was happening over there. We had to overnight on planes, but with Maersk now we can get direct service, white glove service, comes at a premium price, but we can maintain supply lines. And then all of the host of other carriers who have come to listen and provide new and innovative ways. And all of the ports, as you can see, I won't name them all, but there's a few on here today. Continued partnership and investment in their areas. And I'd like to invite the terminals. I know they're here to listen because they're at the table now asking us, what can we do different? How do we bring exports back to Oakland? What can we do together? And I'm glad to hear that this partnership is starting. And we look forward to working with all of the constituency that, in partnership with the state to invest in our port systems. And lastly, I won't name all of these, but you can see that there's a couple of big ones there. North American Meat Institute, the National Milk People. I mean, we're all in this together and we're looking for solutions. And then the importer side of it, they're very open. Amazon is working with us. They want to understand what our concerns are. Walmart is not a big pusher through importers through our port, but they still want to hear how they can help. So I think we have a constituency through our CBA, our Consumer Brands Association, that creates a wide breadth. So as you can see, Blue Diamond's breadth from farm to table creates an opportunity for us to work as partners. So I'll highlight a couple. We scaled an inland port in the Central Valley. This was the pilot. We partnered with Union Pacific, CMA, CGM out of the Southern Valley in Long Beach. We scaled the pilot, and it's Leprino out of Denver. So cheese coming out of there, and we unloaded and reloaded. And we did our first 12 to Busan, and it actually helped us because those 12 were going to a very big CPG, American CPG company in the Midwest that was running out of food product during the crisis. And we were able to use this to get that going. So the proof of concept worked. And there is a ton of work to do still. It's not clean. There's a booking process to work out, but we'll talk about that in a bit. And more importantly, we scaled the port of Oakland. We're loading containers in Oakland, headed to Long Beach, Norfolk. And I have Houston on there. It's not going to Houston now, but the capabilities are coming online. And we'll talk a little bit about port congestion. And then we're partnering with the Union Pacific to do that and create multi-port access to ease congestion. So the Almond Alliance is then taking that and executing it through our handlers, providing a process, working with our trade associations, SSDC and others to make these available. And so we're taking our lumps with trial and repeating and helping to bring scale, and then ultimately helping democratize that process and available the routing guides to others in their continued partnership with their own commercial relationships. And then ultimately, working on a supply chain task force, so we continue to refine this with our partners, the CMA and CMA, HAPAC, all of these we're working with all of our partners. And so I think that's only going to continue to grow. But we'll get right to it. I'll talk about the pilot, and then I've got a couple of cool slides about the Oakland one, and then I got some data. So Inland Rail Partnership, again, this is the rail spur on top. It was Van Law Logistics, or is. Does a lot of dairy, takes the inland spur, unloads the container, reloads them, come pick them up, load them with almonds or walnuts or pistachios, and then reload them back in. No reefers. That's a new scaling that we have to figure out, but ultimately fits a need for a big part of ag. And that reduces mileage. And there's 1 billion pounds in South Valley of almonds. And so there's something there. And that continues to pilot and continue to tweak and learn, because we know ultimately something needs to happen in order to continue to create resiliency. The schedule, let's see if let me get to the next slide, which is Oakland. So I want to make sure I cover the schedule, because I think everybody was always asking me, how does the train work? And so I had to have the bullets up front. So this is the train out of Oakland, because I think this is one a lot of people are interested in. The current Oakland window in gate is service to Long Beach is Wednesday. There you go, from there to there. And it departs at 1400. And it hits those ports with those carriers, and the routing guides and the prices are loaded into everyone's availability within the trade, myself and SSTC and others that have loaded. And so there's pending access. We'll have OOCL up. So you can see that there's a trend there growing with the carriers and the availability. And so that's the schedule. And it's refined and continues to be reviewed at the highest levels at the Union Pacific. So we want to thank them for their partnership at the steering committee level for continuing to bring creative solutions. Although the rail industry is facing its own challenges, we have to find the light where we can and highlight the good, and then focus on the other opportunities. So yeah, I will say that, because I want to make sure I'm fair and balanced. But the Almond Express here, so we basically multi-port access. You drive a container into Ingate there, and then the train goes directly into the on dock and is offloaded, and then it's loaded on to the ship, and these creates resiliency and retains. And this is down to Port of Long Beach, and then MSC, and I know, or at Los Angeles, and then we're loaded up on the containers. And I don't have the other pictures, so I apologize to everyone. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but as you noted, the other services are available and coming online. And what we know is that if we get it on a train, we get it into a port, that we're going to get it unloaded when we engage, and it's going to get on the dock. Now, so we are working very closely with our partners to make sure that's happening. It's been a little trial and error, but we know that we need to have multiple solutions, because given the lack of what we're seeing in Oakland in terms of availability. So that's kind of at the high level what it looks like. And then how is that kind of springing forward, because I think Stas also wanted me to talk about how we're also using the other ports east and looking at that. And so it's not just the short rail for us in California, it's very important. But as you all know, ports are punched, Oakland today, Long Beach tomorrow, who's next? Houston right now. I was in Houston 2 weeks ago and was not so good. But I think so we'll see as trade fluctuates, we'll see continued pressure by ports. And so hence more investment at a federal level in our ports and more investment in California ports. So we need to bring that partnership together. And so this map kind of highlights how we've looked at our strategy. And so, of course, I can't move the trees out of California because our growers are here and we love our families and they've been farming for a long time. But we have to get across to the other side. So we'll highlight a few key routes because I think it's ultimately about the data. And so I'll start at the top because it's a big spreadsheet. But I figured the Propeller Club is a high-level group of logisticians who went to some fine academies. If you can navigate ships and piloting those in, you can make sure that you follow me on the spreadsheet. So from Nava Shiva, which is India is a huge market for almonds. On the port, we list there Oakland, obviously number one. If we could deliver to Oakland, hallelujah, we would do it all day and twice on Sunday. But chassis availability, terminal restrict. I mean, the environment is not friendly for that, and so we have limited options, and we constantly are fighting an ecosystem. And so that's where we feel Mr. Ron Brown on the phone, whom I love and is a straight shooter and tells it like it is and is honest and says what we can and can't do. That's where we're working together. We're going to work with the port to see how we can address some of those issues with the state and bringing in federal resources. So it's not fair to just punch on the port. We need to work with the port to make sure it's continuing to grow, because it is vitally important. It is the number one option. And it's not just me, it's ag. Other ag needs there. We need more reefer plugins. We need more investment in how we think about ag as a whole, because it's important to maintain our preeminence there. And that's how we'll get the carriers back. So we can't control that. We can only work to invest our funds. And so I'll say that. But if you look at the options for rail, which are the next best options, we can rail to Norfolk, and we can see the transit times, and we can see the reliability, and we know that we can move product that way. Of course, this is all, now static before the volume kicks in. So I'm sure we'll see this dynamically change. So we're not hedging all of our volume, but our next best option and our closest solution is LA, and it is the solution in the southern bays. And that's what we're looking to diversify. And so what we say is let's go with the data and let the free market speak for itself. And Stas and I were talking earlier, and I think we'll see much of this as new ports come online and new capabilities. And so it's vitally important that we continue to invest in American ports, and we should use American agriculture as the foundation to do that. Failure to do so will only continue to hold us back and continue to create our GDP. Now, I know talking about larger things, but exports are important, and California agriculture as a whole needs the Port of Oakland to be successful. But if not, the gateway needs to create new diverse opportunities that will create a resiliency to ensure if the world falls apart, God forbid, we have other ways of getting out to import. And we'll say this is important, right? So I won't drain all of these, but you can see that at varying levels, the ranking there. I will say that the question I probably will get asked is, well, what's the rate differential between one and the other, between Oakland and going rail? And I would say that there are some lanes that are not attractive. They're $1,000 higher than, and there are some that are only $100 higher than going through the West Coast Oakland solution. And so it's getting closer. So for $100 more, I can go east with better reliability and shorter transit time. Of course, that will get stressed that things happen, but we will continue to kind of monitor that. So I think the free market is starting to say there are various ways to get out. And so my advice to ports are market yourself, invest in yourself, continue to make yourself attractive to American agriculture, because we own land for hundreds of years and we know how to export. And so imports come and go as consumption changes, but exports have always driven the transportation system. And so this is a slide I presented to the broader leadership as part of an innovation summit that we did in Washington, D.C., as part of our Blue Diamond Growers Government Affairs team, presenting kind of in the inland rail to constituencies and to both chambers of Congress and then to the administration at USDA, and working in partnership with General Alliance, so that we're not just saying it's an almond problem, it's an American problem. And so American agriculture requires the investment to protect our global leadership, because we are the global leader in agriculture. And when we're speaking about our gateways, we need to start investing them as hubs and handling for ag export. And from the middle all the way down, whether it's beef, cattle, dairy, or otherwise, whether they're going through New Orleans, Houston, all ports will fluctuate. And as I noted down below, at any given time, Stas is probably reporting on something or another that's whipping around the way. And I know all of a sudden MSNBC has gotten really sexy on supply chain. And so, but I think as fads and trends go, a lot of us have been living this forever. And so we just need to create that resiliency and build that through that American infrastructure. And so that's our goal as Blue Diamond Growers. And we believe that our food supply chain requires that, because it is a defense issue. And so going back to closing on our theme, as obviously people think we're very optimistic, but we're 112 years old and we believe about getting things done. And some of the rates that you see there and some of the timing you see there, I think are not going to go away. There are new ways of working and building new transportation. And so I think it's vitally important that we continue to invest in partnerships as we have at Blue Diamonds for 112 years. And then the way we get our products to almonds, we want to share that with everyone, make sure everyone has the news challenges. If you don't think it works, great. It's working for us. And I think it'll continue for agriculture. And the more we come together, the better we can create communities and ultimately give back to everyone. And so I'll leave it on this note. This is a picture from the old days, as we like to say, back in our factory. When trucks got cheap, we all forgot what it was like. But sometimes we just got to go back to the basics and figure out how to move stuff. And if you ask growers, farmers, ranchers, or anyone, they know how to do stuff effectively. So thank you for your time, and we'd love to open it up for questions.
Steve, thank you very much for a very informative presentation. You've given us obviously done a lot of work at looking at alternatives for your export channels. I would like to begin by asking Ron Brown to, he and I have talked about your presentation, and Ron, I'd like to give you and the port a chance to comment if you wouldn't mind.
Well, thank you, Stas. Let's see if I can get my camera to work again.
I can see you fine.
All right. Well, and for all on the call, there may be a train or two go by. My office is right next to the train track, so I don't want to blow anyone's eardrums out. No, Steve is on point with what is in the best interest for his company. As a port authority, I mean, we've got to look at of course broader issues, because we've got cargo coming from the Midwest, we got cargo coming down from the Pacific Northwest. Of course, we've got the Central Valley, we've got wine and spirits coming out of the Napa Valley and Sonoma Valley, and it seems like every other valley in California that's growing grapes and producing wine. So it is a bigger picture that we are certainly focused on. And like Steve, we are communicating with all of our, the regulatory community, a lot of the same agencies and individuals that Steve mentioned, we of course are communicating with. We also have responsibilities to local jurisdictions, of course, the city of Oakland, in which we are located, but the whole issue is a regional issue. So the Port of Oakland is really not just a city of Oakland port. It is a regional port. And of course it supports, like I like to say, I mean, the three big valleys, the Central Valley, of course, the Napa Valley, and Silicon Valley. So although people think that all technology is in the cloud, there still are a lot of servers that are actually coming through our port for companies like Salesforce and Microsoft and the others. So I understand the whole positioning that's going on. And of course, my point has been forever that Oakland is an agricultural port, and we exist to serve agriculture. That's pretty much how we were born. Through the mining industry and the ag industry in California, the Port of Oakland came into existence, and we will survive. Oakland has been a relief valve for the ports of Los Angeles and the Port of LA for many, many years. The whole issue that relates to particularly ports on the West Coast is not really an issue resulting from the pandemic. This is something that would have occurred no matter what. There's some simple math that everyone needs to keep into consideration. And I'm gonna use the simple numbers. Let's say on the US West Coast, there's 20 million TEUs between the 5 big container ports. If you grow at double digits for multiple years, in the first year, let's say you go to 22 million TEUs, and then the second year to 24 plus million TEUs, where does that incremental cargo go? The US needed a supply chain plan for many, many years. And we skated by without making the investments, without factoring into the changing economies that would come inevitably, and how we would allocate that cargo along the West Coast, along the Gulf Coast, and even to the East Coast. So I'm not here to really promote the port or demean any other port, but the Port of Oakland has existed to be a gateway for agriculture for almost 100 years. And we will continue to exist. We do need to make some modifications. We do need to look at our cargo mix and how we're able to satisfy that cargo. We have a lot of things on our plate. Some are out of our control, and that's no excuse. But we got to be able to accommodate the growth in vessels. And I want to offer this to my friend Steve. If you look back, let's say 2005, when vessels were coming into the port at about 4,500 TEUs. You know, our infrastructure was certainly in place to accommodate that. On average now, we're seeing vessels coming in at about 14,000 TEUs, and the 18,000 and greater are soon to be coming. So we have to accommodate that as, you know, changes in our infrastructure also. Infrastructure investment is not cheap, and we all know that. And, you know, the source of funding, a lot of it for us comes from the government, but also we have to generate our own funds through our relationships with our terminal operators, which are the bigger contributors to revenue for our port. But to make a long story short, and it's Steve's meeting and yours, Stas, and I don't want to accommodate that, but the Port of Oakland will survive. We will get through these issues. We will be competitive, but we will never be as big as LA and Long Beach. And again, when they've had troubles, we have bailed them out, and they are well aware of it. And we will continue to be that resource for California. So I'm going to close it at that. The port will survive. We will continue to work through our issues, and we will get it right. So for all on the line, you can write it down. Ron Brown said, we will get it right. The Port of Oakland will survive, and we will prevail.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ron. Susan Ransom, you're on the front line of this issue at the Port of Oakland. I know that you and Steve have met. Could you talk a little bit about some of the concerns that he's expressed?
Yes, number one, Steve, I really appreciate the time that you took to come to the terminal because, like you said, the port is crucial in discussion, but I feel the terminals are equally as crucial in the discussions. You know, we have direct dealings as well with the steamship lines to find out what their plans on goals are for their services, to bring some of the services back to Oakland. The chassis and the is definitely an issue, but I feel like that's an issue everywhere at all ports. Export is essential, and I can't speak for the other terminals, but export is certainly essential to this terminal. I mean, our mix of export and import is 50-50, and you do not get that at very many ports. So I would like to say that, I invite you to continue working with us directly. Obviously, we will be working with the port as well to come up with some solutions. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and have all the answers for everything. We do have to get through some of the rough patches that we have right now, but, this is important and we don't want to lose the business to other ports. So, whatever I can do and SSA can do to help, at least to have some conversations, see what we can do to maybe work with our steamship partners, we're willing to do that.
Susan, thank you very much for those comments. Anybody who wants to ask Steve a question. I
do have a quick question. I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Steve, what is the mix of percentage? So if you are doing this rail, what out of your 100% of business, what would be the percentage that would be moving on the rail versus loading direct?
That's a great question. So right now the split is 30% and growing based on availability.
Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to ask Scott Taylor has got his hand up. Scott, would you ask your question?
Yeah, that's great. Thanks a lot, Stas, and Steve, thanks for your outstanding presentation. You're certainly an extremely important customer of Northern California. I'm proud to say that I think the providers here in Northern California can offer some unique opportunities. We don't have control over the vessel lines. That's certainly obviously a big issue here. If a vessel line is going to skip Oakland. That's where port leadership has to come in. Port leadership has to be meeting with these vessel lines, if not every week, every month, every quarter. They have to be out in front. And I really appreciate Ron Brown and as hard as he tries and his good work. But port leadership from Danny Wan on down have to be meeting with these vessel lines and giving them a reason to come to the port. By being thinking outside the box. As an example, we work very closely with SSA, and I appreciate Susan's comments. I don't want to repeat what she said, but with our yard storage capabilities here in Northern California on port property, there might be solutions that we haven't explored yet, Steve. So I applaud you in looking outside the box and thinking about this. The Almond Express is another alternative. But I still think that the Port of Oakland and the providers here in Northern California can come up with some unique solutions for you if we all put our heads together. But not to repeat what I just said, but I can't make the vessel lines come to Oakland. And so that's where we need, at the highest level possible, input from those folks at the port. Thank you very much.
Scott, one of the issues that we know is out there continues to be the issue of the chassis shortage, and it does impact some of the problems that Blue Diamond and other exporters are having. Could you give us some feeling about, is that getting better or worse?
Well, we have about another 1,000 chassis on order. They're starting to flow in at about, I just saw an email from one of our suppliers that they're bringing 30 chassis a week into this market for us. I know our solution is to provide our own chassis. We can't depend on the intermodal equipment providers. When we need the chassis, they're not available. Therefore, we will have well over 2,000 chassis on lease, I would say by the end of the first quarter of 2023. And that's our solution. We're able to provide all of our customers with the chassis that they need, but that may not be the case next week. It's very dynamic, but that's what we're doing on our end, staff.
Thank you, Scott. Do I have any other questions of Steve? Steve, Evie Wong, please go ahead. Evie, you're still.
Oh, thank you, Stas. And thank you, Steve. What an informative presentation. And I think what my main thing, and we really need to focus regionally for this port and for this country, is U.S. exports. Okay, a number of years ago, FMC had a focus on export initiatives and infrastructure and everything else, whatever to support our U.S. exports, we should be there. And I want to echo what Susan and Scott said is that we really do need the leadership to keep what this port, Oakland, is a 50-50 import-export. And in order for us to fully function, that I'm a customs broker. So we need exports as much as we need imports into this port to be healthy. And it's a little disheartening for me to see that we have containers going into the Port of Oakland, but it's not going off on a ship, it's going off to rail. I hope that Ron, you are our only hope, Ron. You're the only port person here, that you'll take the message back to leadership and say, hey, we need to equalize some of the vessel sailings, and that exporters have choice out of this port. We have a lot going for it. We don't want that to decrease. We want it to increase. Really hope that this might spur some more conversation on this and more vessel calls to this port to make that happen. And Steve, what a great presentation. Your company needs to survive. Very innovative, and I just hope that we have enough to keep more of the percentage that you will export here. It'll be less costly, more efficient, and more productive. So this is my plug for Port of Oakland.
Mine too. Our goal is to,
Yeah.
I'd like to remind everyone,
Let's-
and Peter Freeman can remind if he has video. I committed to make Port of Oakland the world's leading agricultural port, and Blue Diamond Growers will continue to lead in that manner. But as an agricultural organization, we have to protect our American farmers, growers, and ranchers, and we're hoping that this may spur that conversation forward, and it only is going to happen with all of your thoughtful leadership. So thank you.
Absolutely. Peter was going to be on this call, and I'm going to rib him. It's like, where are you? He would speak more about this. And yeah, we have a usual 10 o'clock Tuesday call, and he had mentioned that he was going to jump on this call as well.
You can hear the
but thank-
recording.
Huh?
Thank you.
Well, I'm
You'll
going
hear
to
the
make sure he
recording.
listened to the recording, do his homework. Thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
I
And
want to say in
thank you,
fairness to
Stas.
Danny and the people of Oakland and to labor and to the team members working the ships and the terminal operators, thank you on behalf of agriculture. Like this is a we problem. And so we want everyone to know on the front lines that this is us all working together, because we've been doing it right for 100 years, and we just need to, I think Susan said it best, we just need to get back in the room and start talking to each other again.
So Steve, Susan Ransom has brought to my attention that the state of California has infrastructure funding for the ports. We would very much like to work with you to see that money is used for our ports rather than making a certain baseball owner richer than he already is. And his name shall be nameless. But I would very much, that would be something that I think that we should follow up with the Port of Oakland about, is some of your issues have to do with infrastructure.
Right.
And if we can improve the infrastructure, and Scott's talked about the chassis situation, the equipment situation, and Sue Coffey is out there, has been working also to improve some of the yard utilization. I think there are things that we could do, and I don't want to blame this all on the Howard Terminal situation, but no, Susan's saying how much.
No, but I'm saying there's plenty of money to be funneled in the direction that it needs to go correctly.
Yes.
I think if we as logisticians in the community think about the safety and the livelihood of the people
right.
At the Port of Oakland who do our exports, and let's not lose our focus. We need to improve the lives of the people working in those areas. And then the minute we start doing that, I think we'll all start to continue to grow. Right. It's an ecosystem. We all need each other.
Right.
Very good. Guys, we are almost at the top of the hour. I want to thank Steve Schult for his excellent presentation. We realize that our agricultural exporters are our main partners in the port. We have to do more. I'm hoping that this discussion today will stimulate some thought. I think Susan's suggestion about the infrastructure funding is a good one. And I think that's something that we need to do. And I think that we need to be pushing more for some of the efforts to get your business back to Oakland. It's the shortest way to get to most of your destinations. And it beats having to go by train across country to Norfolk. And as you heard from Jessica, the dwell times for the railroads seem to be getting longer, not shorter. So everybody, I really want very much, again, to appreciate all of the good efforts of all of our participants. Thank you all for your ideas and your questions. I want to make sure that I have repeated September 6th. We have Mike Jacob on Howard Terminal and the status of the lawsuits. And on October 25th, we have Captain Taylor Lamb, U.S. Coast Guard, Sector San Francisco. And he's going to be talking about cybersecurity. And Steve, we need to follow up. I hope that we will see you again here. We need to be more present about our almond partners and our nut partners. and that these products need to be getting our major attention. So thank you very much, and we appreciate this. And to all of you out there in the logistics community, I say again, thank you all for your service. We're going into peak season. We're going to have harvest around the corner, and things will continue to be interesting on the waterfront. So my best wishes to you all, and we will see you next time. Thank you and have a good day. Bye, guys.
Thanks, Beth.